Running late.
Yeah, let's get started.
We're not. Yep, we're 6 minutes late. Excuse me. If I could have your attention for a moment. Excuse me. We're running a little bit late. We should have started a few minutes ago. I need to call this to order. This is a public hearing of the Kinney County Groundwater Conservation District for the proposed draft rule amendments we have. We'll establish a quorum first. We have Director Palmer here, Director Bland, myself, Wes Robinson, Director Ward, and Director Gaines in attendance. You will all please rise. Join me in pledging allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Ordinarily, we would allow the professionals to handle the public hearing, i.e. our counsel, but we didn't take the time to work that out before we set the hearing. So you got the pinch hitter. Sorry about that. I'll do my best. All we're basically here to do, it's my understanding, is to listen to the public's comment on the rules that were proposed by the governing body. I believe it was July of last year. It took a while to get here. And I'm not going to set any time limits on anyone. I want to hear what we're here to hear what you have to say. Okay. And we didn't know how many people were going to show up or what they were going to want to talk about. So as the presiding officer of this hearing, I'm not going to set arbitrary limits on time for anyone. And if you decide that you hear something that someone says and it gives you a thought, you want to add a comment, and you haven't signed up, there's no deadline on signing up until the hearing's over. So if you want to grab a piece of paper and write your name down, send it on up. First one I have is Gail Herbert. I believe I'm saying the right name. Last name? Yes, please, ma'am. Tell us what you.
Oh, I just came to listen to hear what everybody was going to ask in public comments and stuff.
Okay.
And see what y'all answered.
Okay, fair enough. And we may come back to you if something may fire up, something you may think of something in the process. Danette or Wig?
Maybe there is just clarification on some of this stuff. The last rule on the requirement for the turning in every 30 days, reporting every 30 days. The question I had is, if Marty comes out and looks at my well every month and takes a meter reading, does that suffice? Perhaps it would be better if there were options. In other words, if Marty's getting a reading, or if the district wants to put on a meter that they can read, some options in there besides just the landowner having to turn in the meter reading. Because if my meter reading conflicts with hers, then that would be a problem too. And then I'm just real confused on how number one would the permit by rule section F, the first rule would actually work within the framework of the rules, and that's the 50 acre feet of groundwater per year following a public hearing. I just need that explained better to me. I'm not going to comment on it. And that's all I have for right now. I'll listen to what y'all other people say, because some of them are just not clear to me. It's not that I disagree or agree, I just don't think they're clear.
Okay. I would say, I think I understand what your point is. Curtis?
50 acre feet, one only thing I would add to that is when you list all these people that can't get another one because they're relatives, here's the problem I have with that. If, for example, I'm going to use a board member, Chase and Blake both want a well, and they have, they want to split the ranch someday. I don't think one should prohibit the other one from getting a well. I think a better tool to protect the aquifer better than this would be spacing. And so I would prefer spacing as to.
Curtis Bowen, Payne, pardon me. Y'all, don't be afraid to correct me on that.
Okay.
I don't read so well
Hey, I've
sometimes.
been called worse. Now, I looked at the rules that y'all are posting and all that, but then I was looking at Dr. Bill's resignation letter. And what I see is that he gave us the answers there in his resignation, just to get away from the springs. That's the biggest impact. The wells closest to the spring, there's no doubt about it. And he said, get into a different aquifer. And I think that's money well spent. And I think it's money that we're not bickering and lawyers and all that, And I don't know if y'all can fund part of that, but I think the groundwater district has over $1 million. I'm not sure about that, but that's what I heard. And it's just an answer for everybody, and we can put all this to rest because we can't do. And when you said about the impact of watering in like Pinto Valley is not, or irrigating is not going to have a real impact on the springs long term. And that's what he said. I mean, he spelled it out. He's just kind of afraid to hurt somebody's feelings. That's what I think. Because, one group says this, one group says that. But there is an answer here, and it's pretty simple. Just get away from the springs as far as you can on the major pumping, and we've done as much as we can for those springs. Because I guarantee you, Pinto Valley and the Dooley well do not correspond with the spring. And that proved this last year. We were going down, springs were going up, and then the springs are going down and we're going up. So it's pretty simple math and pretty common sense to do what he said. Get away from the wells that impact the spring the most. And that's just my comment. I think it'd be money well spent.
Do you have anything additional to say about these rules that they are
The
proposed?
30-day, I think 15 days, y'all are telling us we have to pay by 15. Why not just do it by the end of the month? Because somebody might be off on a trip somewhere. Instead of, what's the difference we paid January 30th, and Lance brought that. He had said something about it. But I don't think 15 days or 30 days is going to make any difference. We all pay it.
Well, if we don't, we lose permanent.
And I really think it's good that you have somebody checking the wells, monitoring. It's great because the more we learn about the aquifer, the better, right? And a timely manner every month is great because you can tell with spring flow and with rainfall and where it rains and all that is great because that's what Dr. Bill needed was more information. He can't, in 2023 or before, he didn't have that. And then 2024, he got another set of information, which he can make sense of, I don't think Dr. Bill's a bad man. I think he's a good man, but he's pressured. I don't think he likes the pressure of the community, is what I've heard. And, he doesn't need to do it. So and I hope y'all don't reprimand him I do think he should finish up his report. But other than that, the man's trying to do his job, but he's just not a person that takes criticism very well.
Comments about that probably are better for the subsequent meeting that follows this.
Okay.
These are really more along the lines of the proposed rules that the governing body has put up at the moment for the public hearing. And you can certainly have your opportunity here after this to reiterate that for the record. Do we have any?
My only question is to clarify, January 31st is what you're talking
Yeah.
about. Okay.
Right.
January 31st.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's the way
where that's
Edward
at.
is over there. And it gives you a little time.
Edwards is that way.
You could be out of town or, you just don't want to be late and get penalized for something, which I don't think they would do anyway, probably, as long as you pay your bill. They'd probably send you a notice and get it all done.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Thank you.
comment. Thank you all for your comment. Does it, ma'am, did anything, do you want to make any additional comments? Is anyone that signed up, or does anyone want to sign up to make an additional comment?
I need to go sign a paper to talk real quick.
Well, just you put your name on it after you're done, Lance. I know who you are.
All right. Okay. On the permit bog rule in the start with the 50 acre feet, with everybody wanting to save water and everybody trying to conserve, that's actually adding to the total allotment from the aquifer. Correct. So
Yep.
is anybody giving any thought to putting a cap at 76,000 acre feet or where the exact number is? And if you got to go get that 50 acre feet, you got to go rent it or buy it. Because over time, it's going to start adding to deficits. Maybe closer to the spring if somebody puts it up. Just a thought. I'm not saying it's for or against, but for instance, where we come from, the EAA, they have a cap. And you can drill a well all you want, but you got to go establish your water from somebody within the district on the total allotment
Because of the remaining of
because of
it.
the remaining. So it kind of protected the aquifer in the long term. There's no additional more acre feet coming out of it than was established. See, that would be my whole. That's just something to talk about.
I appreciate your comment.
The only thing good or bad is it's actually creating a market.
I appreciate your comment. This is just for the record.
I'll
That I know.
fine.
I know. I'm just telling you that's just so we got a record for the public hearing. It's the only reason that we do that. Sure, Zach.
I'll sign one too.
Yeah.
Wes, but back to the monthly readings. Don't need to be redundant, but as few high producing wells as we have here, and Marty's checking them every month. I mean, I read mine every month too, and turn it in at the end of the year. But if Marty's reading it, and I may read mine on the end of the month, and she may be out 10 days later and read it, but at least let the district be on top of that. I'd much rather y'all depend on Marty reading it,
That's true.
because there's gonna be conflicts on dates when you read it, what your mouth said.
Wes, may I address that?
It's not our place to comment on, but if you have a clarification question or anything about it, please.
When the rule was written, it was before we hired Marty. And the last time this discussion came up about that particular rule, my personal recommendation when the board brings it up will be now that we have Marty, she can do it instead of the owner. So anyway, but it's in the way it was originally in there. It was before her, and that's why it says the
I'm gonna still read
permittee.
mine, because I wanna know what I'm using.
Yeah, well, I know, but it says permittee. But now that we have Marty, when the board, I personally will push to say no. That the board will do these readings.
And I would add in the third option that if you wanted to go to a meter that uploads the information, if the district ever goes to those, then there's three options. You can self-report.
And then she can just check it periodically.
Or it would be uploaded at the district to where the permittee had choices. On the 50 acre feet, well,
Yes.
When we wrote the rules, I think the process has kind of gotten out of whack to begin with. I think that what we intended, because hearings are so expensive for the district, what that first hearing was supposed to be was for people to come in and say, and so the 50, what the amount wasn't important as much so as, for example, someone comes in and they want to drill a well and they want 1,000 acre feet of water. What we said that first hearing was for people to come in and say, we have an interest, we are worried about our well, and to sign up so that while the pumping was going on, then now that there's transducers and everything else, which we didn't have, it would be to protect the neighbors. And so people could register that they had a jurisdictional interest and they wanted to be included on the process. And then the next hearing was to hear what happened to those wells when when the data was collected, like when if a hydrologist came out and pumped, what happened to the neighbor?
The results.
So the first hearing was just to sign up, and the second hearing was to hear the results, to make sure that you weren't overly impacting the neighbors. And if you were, then reduce what you wanted down to a level that wasn't having a big impact on the that was the intended process.
Okay. Do we have anyone else?
Can I sign up afterwards?
Yes.
So along with, I'm an absentee Alan Heinrich, absentee landowner. I agree with it's difficult for an absentee landowner to come down and do the monthly reading. The only question I would have is, if I had to do it, I would do it. But if Marty was to do it and come out and do it, like mine doesn't use that much. She might not check it every month. I don't know what it would be. So how would it work if I filled out that form at the end of the year and I put monthly things that I come up with and maybe it doesn't match what Marty has? So I just don't know how that would come into play if she's reading it. And then the owner at the end of the year, like the current form, I could maybe do it on months, but it may not match with what Marty would have been reading. So that'd be just something that
Thank you for your comment.
reading on one day and I'm reading on another day or 5-10 days apart.
That's kind of what I was thinking, but I can't can't really interject into the discussion. But I was thinking different days might have, certainly have different numbers. Anyone else? Okay. Let's see what's around here. Yeah, that shouldn't have even been in there. We don't do that in public hearing. Okay, we're going to adjourn this public hearing at 1 minute, 5:24. But I'm going to leave the record open for 5 business days for any written comment that wants to be submitted. So if anything you've heard here tonight created another thought about proposed rules or the approach to those, you can submit those in writing to the district by the end of business days, 5 business days from now. It'll be 1 week. The board will take all that under advisement, and then they will take action on the proposed rules. So the public hearing is adjourned. And now we'll have our business meeting.